Decision Diaries.
Welcome to a special edition of Decision Diaries, where I am going to interview my dad, Russell Girolamo, and talk to him all about being a father on this wonderful time of Father's Day. I wanted to share this special moment with me and my dad. Welcome, Dad.
Hey, how y'all doing?
All right, we are going to go way back. You are officially 84 years old, and we are going to go way back. And I'm going to ask you some early questions about when you first found out that you were going to be a father.
Okay, I'm willing to talk.
All right. So, what was your first thought when you found out that you were going to be a father? And how did you find out? Because I don't think I ever heard this story.
I was very much surprised. It was not planned. It's something that happened, but I was very proud after I found out. And I told everybody, I was like going down the street with a walkie-talkie or a bullhorn telling everybody my wife was pregnant. I remember calling on customers and I was blasting everywhere. Secretaries, vice presidents, oh, I'm going to be a father. I'm going to be a father. I was really proud. And then I got to thinking, whoa, this is a big responsibility. I'm saying, hey, I'm starting out and I'm going to have children. Where am I going to live? And I made the decision at that time to never live north of the Mason-Dixon line. And I decided I will not move here and I won't move there. And I will be a very independent person. And I have lived up to that.
How old were you?
I was 23 years old.
Okay. And how long had you and Mom been married?
Only a year. And at 24, I was offered a job to move to New York City, work on Park Avenue for Nabisco, and it scared the hell out of me. And I remember going to a movie at the Jefferson Theater. It was all about New York. And I'm saying, there's no way am I living there and going to work on a subway. Well, Janet was willing to go. I mean, she was ready to go to New York, but not me. And so I didn't. I stayed where I was. And I changed jobs later on. I went to a different company, went to work for Johnson Wax, and I spent 20 years with them.
So you had two daughters. And so this question is going to be kind of interesting. What was the biggest surprise becoming a father, other than the fact that you did end up with two girls?
I thought the first one was going to be a girl, which was Lisa. I thought the second one was going to be a boy. In fact, the nurses, most of them said, hey, it's a boy. I can tell. Oh, it's a boy. Well, when Lynn came out, well, it was a girl. But just so happens that Lynn the girl was really like Lynn the boy.
Yeah, I'm kind of a tomboy.
She acted like a boy. She competed like a boy. And she was very athletic. And I got my boy and a girl. And I'm very proud of that.
And that was the biggest surprise?
That was a surprise. And I saw her develop. I coached her softball. I didn't teach her how. I gave her a bat. She picked it up. She looked just like me when I was young. I'm saying, holy Christ, it's a reincarnation of me. And she thinks like me. So that's the way it is. That was a surprise. It was a good surprise. I did want a third child, and I was going to try to get a boy, but that was not in the cards. So I ended up getting clipped and making sure that wouldn't happen.
That's funny. All right. Well, now everybody knows.
I'll never forget that day. It was in Fort Worth. And the day of the clip, that afternoon, that night, I was bowling in a bowling league and I went bowling. And that was a big mistake because I was swollen.
We've got to move past the clipping and back to the again, a lot of pride in you being the major breadwinner of the family, and especially during that time when my mom was not one of those working moms. So how did you balance the work and family life? Because you actually coached almost every single sport that me and Lisa were in. So how did you do that?
Well, I just figured it was my responsibility as a man to be the breadwinner, and I did everything that I could to work on the side for different jobs. I did it in Fort Worth. Um, I did it in Beaumont. I sold real estate on the side, and I took chances. I took customers around in the company car on Friday, showed them houses, and I worked 4 days a week. Then one day I did real estate, and I was doing pretty good because I was from the area and people knew me. My picture was in the paper, and I did make money at it. So I was able to hold down a couple of jobs until I got to a point where I got promoted and I had to move on to a different city. So I just felt like it was my responsibility to do that. And I did.
Well, then how did you fit in all the coaching with these two jobs?
Well, I just did. I just thought that I have a couple of daughters that they can compete, and they did compete, particularly when we moved to Coral Springs, Florida. Uh, they played soccer, softball, and they were competitive, and I enjoyed coaching them. I enjoyed seeing them perform. I enjoyed seeing them be the leaders of the team, and they were good. Particularly Lynn was very athletic. Lisa was too. She ran track. She was a distance runner. I used to run with her, and where we lived in Coral Springs, and she was good at that. And it was just fun to see them compete, and they were good at it. And I just made time for it. That's all.
All right. So I like the kudos on my athletic ability. I didn't even prompt you for that. So that's that's nice. Now, taking a step back, how do you think becoming a father changed you as a person?
Well, it made me grow up. It it made me, it made me take things seriously. How to invest money, how not to spend any more than I was making. Uh, it made me look at the importance of living where I wanted to live and living how I want to live, and not going into a high price area that I couldn't afford, which I did have the opportunity. I was noted when I was with Johnson as a guy that has moved all around the country, but he's never moved. You know, I accepted jobs, then I turned them down. I accepted jobs, then I turned them down. And I remember when they told me that I was going to Chicago, and I accepted it, and I went out. I was in Lubbock, Texas, at a country and western joint shooting pool with one of my sales reps, and he told me I was the stupid son of a bitch that ever came along if I was going to go to Chicago on a lateral move. So I walked over to the phone, called my boss, told him I wasn't going, and he says, "Oh my God, well we got to stop the sale of your house." He said, "This could be a problem." So I went back. I met with him. And they said, "Okay, we accept that. You're not leaving. But the next time something comes open, you're leaving." I said, "Okay." 2 weeks later, Miami came open. I said, "Adios, I'm leaving." So I went to Miami. And that was a real shocker. But I loved it after it was all over.
Yeah, because we've been in Florida pretty much ever since. So, okay, what is one of the things that as a father you actually learned from each of your children? This ought to be interesting. What have you learned?
Well, I have learned, I can't say a lot because I'm the one doing a lot of the teaching. But I also learned that when you have two daughters, they they gravitate a lot toward the mother. And Janet had a lot to do with the way the girls were. She was very astute. She would notice things about them. She kept in touch with them. She gave them a good example. Uh, I was the breadwinner. I didn't mind doing that. But I was also very proud of them, both of them, for getting involved in different activities. They were dancers, they were played sports, they were involved in different activities. I never forget the parties we had. I walked on the front porch one time, and one of Lynn's friends was throwing up on the porch. I said, "My God, what's wrong with him?" They said, "Oh, he's got the flu." I said, "No, we don't have the flu. I got that bottle of Jack Daniels over there. I think he just drank it." And he did.
So really what you learned is that Lisa and I knew how to throw parties and used your liquor cabinet.
Yes, you did. And I also learned that you should have been a paratrooper because you took the sheets on your bed in your bedroom and tied them to the post on the bed, went out the window and rappelled down a 2-story house and went down to the park. And I'm looking for you and you weren't there. And then I'm saying, "My God, these sheets, they've gone out the window." So I waited and waited and waited until you came home, and you came walking down the street, and first thing you said was, "Oh, don't be mad at me, Dad. I know what you used to do when you were young, and you were selling all the way." I said, man. I said, "I'm not mad, Lynn. I'm not mad at all. All I want to do is see you climb back up that window." And you couldn't do it. So that was fun.
Yeah, I think that qualifies as what is one of the funniest memories of that I brought to your life as a daughter bringing to a father. And those sheets, you couldn't untie them after I had tied them together, because when we sort of slithered down the sheets, it made it so tight that that mom just had to throw them out. And there was no getting back up, by the way. And we both made it. We both made it down the window, going down the sheets. And I think it was 7th or 8th grade. So yeah. And you're right. As I relied on you to be the voice of reason about the fact that I was sneaking out, because I didn't feel like my mom understood being rebellious. And I knew you did. So that's why I appealed to the father side.
Yeah, well, it worked.
To get me out of being punished. I still got punished, but still. All right. So, okay, when you think about a legacy that you have left behind as a father to my husband, what would you say? What is something of a father advice or father legacy that you think you'd want to be known for?
Well, I can say that I grew into it. I started out of college, out of the Army, got married, went to work, started on a low-end job working for Nabisco, stacking crackers. And I wasn't pleased with that job, but I forced myself to move to the next level, which was Johnson. And I stayed with them for 20 years, and I climbed the corporate ladder, and I paid my dues. But I did it, I can say truly, my way. I did what I wanted to do. I moved where I wanted to move. I never wanted to move the family north of the Mason-Dixon line, because I just felt like if we moved there, we wouldn't be together as a family. Sooner or later, we'd split up. And I could have gone to Racine, Wisconsin, which would have been really a very cold area to live in. And I would be there the rest of my life, and no telling where the girls would be. So it worked out. I made the choices myself. I could have moved up quicker, but I didn't. I sort of took it slowly, and it just worked. And I was very independent. As a manager, I did a lot of things. I can't say they were legal or illegal
or ethical
but I made my numbers. I always made my numbers. I was always at the top. Never had a problem with making sales. If I needed business, I would ship it to Miami, then they'd ship it overseas, which was illegal, which was okay. I did that.
You can't prosecute them now. That's all
No,
I'm
you
saying. That's
can't prosecute me
statute of
now.
limitations. You can't prosecute now. So here's the thing. I understand. I think
It was
I think
survival of the fittest. It was like a wolf out there. So that was me. And the other managers in the company used to tease me about moving all over the United States, yet I've never moved. So every time we go to an interview, Russ is being interviewed and he got the job, but he didn't want it. That's what they used to say. So when they went against me, they knew I wasn't going to take it if it was a northern market. Now, Miami was different. It was in the South. But when I moved down there, it really wasn't the South. It was the North, living in the South. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I know that y'all's generation of fathers put a lot of emphasis on being good breadwinners, which of course you more than fulfilled that. But let's talk about the fact that you are an Italian man who has two daughters, one daughter fairly tomboyish. What were some of kind of the scary moments or emotional moments, because you are a sensitive person. So what were some of those sort of moments as a father that when you look back, it just kind of gets you emotional, like either you were scared or like one of those just memorable times when being a father was kind of hard. It was very emotional. What was
Well,
one of
when
those times?
when we lived in South Florida in Coral Springs, and Coral Springs was a nice city, a lot of children, very sports minded. But the first thing I did when I moved there is I joined the Sons of Italy, and I told my father that I joined the Sons of Italy. He said, "Oh, it's not a good group." I said, "Oh no, they're fine, Pop. There's no problem." That was one week. The next week, I was playing poker with them at a poker game behind the church, of all places. And this guy punched me on the side. He said, "You want to buy a Cadillac? No serial numbers." I said, "What?" He said, "You want to buy a Cadillac? No serial numbers." I said, "Are you kidding me?" He said, "No, I got one." So I said, "No, I don't want to buy a Cadillac." And another guy said, "Don't buy a Cadillac from him. He just got out of prison." I said, "Oh my God." And he said, "You get in trouble with him, he'll kill you." I said, "I don't want a Cadillac. No, I don't need a Cadillac." So that was one thing. And the other thing, I was living in a neighborhood. They were all Jewish, Italian, or Greek. Everybody was from somewhere else. Most of them from New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia. And I was the only Southerner in there. And across the street from me was a guy named Joey Mineo who looked like Billy Joel, and he was built all the houses in my addition. But that was a secondary to what he really did, and he's a drug dealer. So he had a Quaalude factory in the houses that he was selling, and he got busted by the cops, and they spent some time in jail, but he got out all night long. My bedroom was on the street right across from his house. All night long, the cars would be going down the street. What are these cars doing out here? And they're buying Quaaludes. And Joey was crazy. And anyway,
And he had two daughters.
and he had daughters, and they played soccer, and they played with Lynn, and his wife was beautiful, blonde headed, and she was the coach, and I was a coach, so we competed. But anyway, it was a great place to live. I was glad I was only there for 3 years, and then I moved to Jacksonville, and Jacksonville, we moved to the woods, which was very active with tennis and swim and all that stuff. And I joined the tennis team. I got involved in that. And we played softball too. And I coached the girls' softball team. So, I just progressed along and went along with whatever. And I ended up in Jacksonville, and that's where I've been. And I decided I like it here, and that's where I'll stay.
I think you had a lot of experience as a father, being active in all of the sports that my sister and I were in. So, if you had your choice of your favorite sport that you coach.
I was involved in another sport, which was the highlight of my career in Coral Springs. Is I um, I was a coach of the baseball team, the 13 to 15-year-old senior little league team. We were the expansion team, and this buddy that I played tennis with, he and I became coaches, and we went to the tryouts to put a team together, and I was able to evaluate the players, and I was able to pick 5 12-year-old boys to be on the team, and they could play every position. Well, the very first year, we won the city championship in baseball, and these were good players. Unfortunately, I was not there for the championship game. I was in Canada for a national sales meeting with Johnson, and when I called down to Florida to see what happened, I found out that we had won, and I was very excited. And when I came back, they had a big party for us and everything at the park. And that was a highlight of my career because that was playing with guys that were real baseball players. They were playing hardball. I had a hard time hitting the way they pitched. And we ended up winning the city championship first year out. And I was very proud of that. But that's something that I did with Bill Simpson. He was the other coach. And I never forget, it was a wonderful time. And that was the highlight of my coaching career, I guess. Probably.
So the highlight of your coaching career was coaching a team that you didn't have a daughter on.
Yeah.
Dad. All right, now let's focus on one of the ones that your daughter was a member of, and I just remembered another sport. Okay, so
It was softball. It was
softball. Was it soft? What about tennis? Yeah, there was softball. We forgot about tennis. So
well, it was softball and it was tennis when Lynn was playing for the high school team, and she was number 2 on the tennis team, and she played singles, and I watched her play, and I watched one of her matches where she was playing this girl that had all these lessons and all that, and I saw Lynn play her, and Lynn was getting beat, and then they switched courts, and Lynn hit her racket down on the ground, and I was up above watching, and the lady's mother was there with me, and she looked at me, and I looked at her, and I said, "Your daughter is just getting ready to get beat." And so Lynn came back and beat her, and the girl was in shock, and I was really proud of her, and I told her mother, I said, "I told you she's going to get beat." I didn't make any friends that day.
Yeah, I don't think you made any
But anyway,
friends.
and then the softball team, and in the woods, we put this team together, and the girls couldn't play, and Dave Bayman and I coached it, and we ended up winning the championship. And Lynn was shortstop, and she could play, and she had an arm like a rocket, and they were good. They ended up playing.
Now we were a little bit like the Bad News Bears.
Bad News Bears.
And a couple of girls were hit a couple of times with a softball in places that girls don't like to be hit. I know I was hit with a baseball bat across my chest a couple of times. And I remember the famous words you said is there's no crying in softball. so that was one of your favorite coaching ones. One more thing about being a dad, right, is there are certain things that dads can do that moms can't do, in certain traditions that dads have. We know of a couple of interesting dads out there. There's this guy, he's called Bat Dad, and he dresses up like Batman. He does these fun things. There's a guy in Jacksonville who dresses up and in costumes and meets his kids at the bus stop. But I think, Dad, one of your famous things for doing was coming up with a children's book character called Taco, um, the taco eating Billy Goat. And this taco eating Billy Goat who had a taco stand met up with the mafia. You want to talk about your where you came up with the idea
Well,
of the children's book at night, and you just made it up, and really it ended up being sort of funny and not too serious. But when was that moment that you were like, okay, part of the nighttime routine is going to be telling the story about the taco eating Billy Goat?
well, it just came to me. I used to tuck the girls in at night, and I could tell them good night. Then I got to thinking. I said, well, I'll just make up this story about the taco eating Billy Goat. And the taco eating Billy Goat would travel to New York to the Yankee Stadium. He would be all over the baseball parks. He would be football stadiums. Taco eating Billy Goat was everywhere. Uh, he would show up at picnics. I would talk about cooking out in the backyard, and this Billy Goat comes walking up, and the girls would love it. They would sit there. They were sitting there, lay in the bed, and their eyes would get like saucers about this Billy Goat. And they would eventually look forward to me telling the story. They didn't know what I was going to come up with, and I didn't know what I was going to come up with, but somehow they were interested in it. I just kept piling the stuff on. It was all make believe, and it was all me just coming up with crazy stuff.
Well, I think the theme of the taco eating Billy Goat is the taco eating Billy Goat was a business person who was always trying to sell his tacos and was always selling these tacos at all these sports places. And then along would come the mafia that would try to take his taco stand away. And I don't know what the theme was for my sister and I, but I think in general, I think we got the sense that we were always rooting for the taco eating Billy Goat to be a successful business person.
Yeah.
And then that, obviously the mafia is bad, but like you didn't have any sort of, like breaking ankles or anything like that. The mafia just kind of threatened the taco eating Billy Goat.
Well, now that you bring it up, you have a better memory than me, because you're right. It was about the mafia and it was about what they did. And I did bring them into it. And of course, we were living in South Florida, but there was a lot of mafia people around us, I'm sure. But y'all enjoyed it. It must have stayed in your mind because it's still being brought up today. So I guess it was worth it.
I always thought it would make a funny off-color children's book, because I don't know what the life lessons were in there, but I know that we could probably come up with a few chapters. Okay, so now I'm going to get to another life lesson that you told me as I became a mother and you as a father. And this is another life lesson of family vacations. Family vacations. So the first time before my husband and I took our young children on an official family vacation where we got in an airplane, and it was an extensive long vacation. It wasn't like Disney or something like that. It was like a 2-week vacation. And one of the things you said to me is sometimes family vacations are not always fun. Family vacations can be very stressful. Do you have a story of one of the family vacations that you organized, because you're a very organized person, that comes to mind as that you, as a father, you planned and something that you always remember?
Well, the most extensive one was when I took you girls to Europe, and we went to London, went to France. I was constantly worried about how y'all were going to handle that, and that y'all could just watch what you do and just look around you for any issues. And I was a little bit worried about going because I haven't been there yet, and it was all different for me. And of course, the main thing is I wore these crazy looking golf pants. They were checkered, and I wore them to England, and I wore them to France. When I got to France, I noticed people were looking at me like funny. And so I finally figured out I needed to change pants. So I went to the store and bought these blue jeans for like $400 or $300. And I came walking out, and you girls always would walk away from me. And when I got my blue jeans, you start walking next to me. I said, wow, these blue jeans have really done the trick. And then I said, okay, I got this restaurant we're going to, and I got a coupon. And so we're going to go to this restaurant. And we went down into the basement area. The restaurant was below the street level, and they advertised music. And so we go in there, and this is in France. And the guy says, oh, your advertisement says you got music. And I said, where's that? He said, oh, God, over here. So he pulled his curtain back, and he hits this radio, and music came on, and he's playing this French music and all that. And that was the entertainment. And actually, the food was pretty good, but it was different. But I was determined to use that coupon, which I did.
Well, we were in London, and we were going to a French restaurant right before the next part of our trip was going to France.
Yeah, that was it.
That was the irony of the whole thing. And then the even funnier thing on top of that is the restaurant was completely 100% empty.
There wasn't anybody in there.
You walked up and you said, I have a reservation. And it's like, I think they can accommodate us, Dad. I think they can accommodate us.
I remember saying that reservation, Geronimo.
Because I don't think that anybody else has a reservation here. And that was a coupon from American Express.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was an American Express coupon.
That was me at my best. It was like,
that was a dad moment. That was definitely a dad moment.
It was like Chevy Chase, with travels. Kind of something stupid that you do. And I did a lot of stupid things. That was me. But I just pass it on.
Being a father is tough.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I'm just a mother, and I know what's tough about being a mother. What's tough about being a father?
The responsibility you have, and the fact that you're the breadwinner, and you need to be the protector of the family, all the family. And, generally, the man plots the way that you go, what direction you're going in, what do you major in, what kind of job you have, what do you do? You're a professional person, you're going to be a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're a salesman, what are you? And that's up to the man. And that's a big responsibility, a big decision you got to make. So you just have to make it. And not be afraid. Just make it.
Okay.
Either you make a mistake or you don't. That's all.
Yeah. What is the biggest joy you get from being a father?
Just see them grow up and see them involved in how they have developed, and see their personalities, and knowing what my personality is, and knowing how I react. And then see the same things in them, because you do lead by example, and they do pick up on your traits. And one or two of your children are going to have your traits. You're not going to get by without being the way you are. And they're going to pick up on those things. In this case, mostly, Lynn is more in my realm versus Lisa. Lisa is Janet. Lynn is me. And that's just the way it is. And that happens over and over and over throughout time. And, these are children that you raise, you live with, and they see you every day. And they see your mistakes, and they see your accomplishments, and they see the way you act, and they want to emulate that, because they're going to have a family one day. And when you see your grandkids grow up, and you see them through the years, and you remember when they were little kids, and I remember a lot about all three of mine. And then you see them as they grow up, and how they develop is really a thrill.
You can finally see and understand all the sacrifice that your parents made for you when they were raising you, when you happen to be raising your own children. And we are certainly by no means done. I don't know what you define as done as a parent. I don't think you're
You're
ever
never
you're
done.
never done. No, you're never done. And
No,
if
you're
you're
not done.
and if you're if you're a father, I think you never stop worrying about your daughters in particular for some
No,
reason. I don't know what that is. I guess I'm just a daddy's girl, but you never seem to stop worrying about me even when I tell you to stop worrying about me.
no, I don't stop. No, it's just inherent. It's there. Um, and I came from immigrant parents, and they were not educated. They came here to a foreign country, were successful in business, and they taught me a lot. Uh, my father taught me how to be independent, taught me how to work, taught me how to meet people, taught me how to run a business, taught me about income, taxes, all the things that I learned from him owning a business would carry over to me and my brothers. And we've all three have done very well. You know, me, I've probably done the lesser of the three, but I don't care. That's fine. I'm the oldest, and I got started the first. And, you know, it's just all worked out. And
Yeah, I think your dad would be very proud of you. I do. I really do.
Decision Diaries.